It's very scary at Nelson's today. This isn't a very special Halloween episode, but the thunder and lightning has been quite enormous. So if we suddenly black out, you will know why lightning has struck. But I'm here with my friend Rachel DeAlto, who's finally gotten over to the apartment. We've been planning it and unplanning it and deconstructing. And the last time your plane...
My plane, it was delayed, canceled. It was everything got in the way of us.
Everything has gotten in the way of us except for flirting fearlessly. The only thing that could come between us is flirting fearlessly.
It's true.
And Rachel and I met first because I admired her legs when she was sitting in a green room. It's a green room, if you don't know. A green room is where you wait before you go on camera. There's no green in that green room.
Occasionally there is some green in green rooms, but not that one.
It's usually in the refrigerator.
I get really excited when
mold.
it's a green room.
Yeah. Well, it was because in the theatrical days it was an atria, and there were plants and outside, and that's why
he
it
knows
was.
these things.
But she's the author of the best-selling Flirt Fearlessly, and I was so mesmerized by what she espouses as being a flirt expert. And people say, how do you become an entertainment reporter? I've learned how to answer that. How does one become a flirt expert?
I flirt all the time, which you've witnessed.
Yes, that's why you're sitting on my couch. You know, I like to window shop. I don't buy, but I window shop.
I started a dating company 5 years ago. I wasn't intentionally becoming a flirt expert. I was a lawyer. And it just kind of transitioned from being this company head to people started asking me for opinions because of my personality and because I've always been super flirty and fun, and I just don't take life that seriously. So they started asking me for advice, and I started giving it. And I was
about
like,
flirting.
I like this, flirting and dating and communicating. So I did take my background, which was communications for undergrad, and my legal background, and kind of mixed it together. And now I talk about sex, love, and dating.
So you know how to advise on sex, love, and dating.
Yes.
But does your legal head ever come in to say, you know, this is the limit and this is as far as you should take it? Because I would think that would be very important.
Yeah,
otherwise
it always
you're just
does.
a tramp.
It always does.
You don't want to be a tramp.
No, I mean, some people do, and we don't judge. But yeah, for me, I have a really kind of different approach to it than a lot of the other coaches out there. There's some people out there that literally just freewheel, and you know, for me, I was always known as like the buzzkill, even though I'm a lot of fun. When it comes to liability or things like that, I always want to make sure that the lines are towed, people are respectful, and you know, I don't want my clients calling me at 3 a.m. locked up somewhere. So
my mom's 84 years old, and it is remarkable to me. She was a great beauty in her youth, and still is a beautiful 80-something-year-old woman. But she has an innate quality, and I watch people flirt with her constantly because she's receptive to it. I don't know what it is, and she's not a dirty old lady, but everybody of all ages seems to want to
be next to her,
engage with her, and it's not necessarily a sexual thing, but it definitely has flirtatious qualities.
Absolutely.
Is this something you can learn, or is it just something you're born with?
Both. I think that there's people like your mom that just attract people. They're open, they're confident, and they have that energy about them. And then there's people that don't do it, but not because they can't do it, but because they haven't learned to love themselves first or build up their confidence. A lot of what I do is really building up people's confidence, because that's what makes you a flirt. The best flirts out there, and I'm sure your mom is probably very secure with herself. She's fine with herself and who she is. That makes her so attractive to everybody else, because everybody wants that, but not everybody has it.
Well, we all know how good we feel when we have a new pair of jeans or a jacket that makes us feel sexy.
Yes.
So that would feed into the self-confidence.
Absolutely, from your image to how you feel about yourself. I talk a lot about self-talk, and I talk about this on Twitter too. A lot of mine is a little pixie dust and unicorns occasionally, because I think that's important, because people need to feel good about themselves from the inside and the out. So put on those hot pair of jeans, but also tell yourself, I am sexy, damn it.
But the flirting,
can I say damn it?
Yeah, you can say, this is the internet, you can say anything. But and that's a very hot picture of you.
Thank
Why
you.
touch is a must, why touch is a must, and how much is just right. What is it? So, but there's a whole thing about invading
you're
territory.
allowed to touch.
Are you allowed to touch?
just
when
can't.
Is it appropriate? And there's that, you know, there was something on a kiss cam the other night at a ball game, and the guy didn't kiss the girl, so she dumped a soda on him and stormed out. Now, if a guy had done that to a
Not
girl,
cool.
he'd be arrested for abuse. double standards. Can men learn something from this?
Yes, absolutely. It's written for both men and women, but in general, men have a little bit of a different, I guess we'll call it an obstacle to be nice, to overcome. A lot of times guys think that everybody's flirting with them. So then they touch too much, or they take it over the line, or they talk about sex too much, and it turns off the women. So learning when to touch is great, but it's like a nice little press here or like that, be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm here. And then you let go. It's not like we're not massaging each other unless you want to. And they're both receptive of it.
Well, I'm a big fan of shake my hand, the double handshake.
I love the double handshake.
That to me is as good as flirting, even if it's a non-sexual situation.
Exactly.
There's something very warm about that
Yes.
to me. Is that on the right target?
Absolutely. I love the double handshake. I love you know what, it was really great to meet you, Nelson. Even when you're just networking, because part of what I teach on the other side, I have this fluffy side, but then I have to validate those law school loans where I teach people how to network or communicate. So using those type of things, using the double handshake, using the shoulder, using eye contact and smiling in business settings works just as well as it does in the bar.
Do you have a doll? Show me where he touched you on the doll, you know, just to make sure it's okay.
Well, I mean, it depends who it is.
Well, with all due respect to our president and first lady, the fist bump is not so hot.
No, not
I mean,
bad.
it's very
Not
sanitary if you don't want to get down and dirty.
I don't know, maybe you could still get some germs on there, but no, it's very impersonal, and it's funny. I think it's meant to be amusing, but no, it's not something that should be used to either pick somebody up or connect with someone.
Now, do you still practice law?
I don't.
You don't. So
don't.
did you? I mean, how does that work? Does it
I'm
expire?
technically retired.
Okay, you're a retired lawyer,
I am.
but you never have to retire from flirting.
Never.
But at what
I mean,
point do
eventually, I'm gonna have to retire at
Well, I
some
was going
point.
to say, at what point do you become, a dirty old lady?
A dirty old lady. I don't know. I hope to end up like Dr. Ruth one day. Although I read some of her things that she writes, and I'm like, I can't listen to this coming out of her mouth. But I respect her advice. But I think somewhere between now and Dr. Ruth, I'd retire.
Well, that leaves you about 100 years, so you're okay.
When they stop calling me, when you're like, pitching things, or when you're asking to speak, or if people are asking you to speak, and that stops happening, that's probably the sign that it's time to give up.
And Dr. Ruth's expertise is sex.
Yes.
Whereas yours, I find flirting really can just be courtesy. I mean, it can be a smile, a helpful something. So it helps you in the supermarket. It might help you get an upgrade on a flight.
Yes.
Upgrade
Upgraded hotel rooms. It was funny because I had one of my friends came with me on my last trip, and she's like, oh my gosh, you do it everywhere, but you get so much out of it. And I don't even do it for that intent. I'm just genuinely nice to everybody. And I think people forget to do that. And they forget to do it authentically. Because when you come at people and people can tell when you're being fake. And if you're faking it to get something out of it, it's not gonna work. But if you're authentically nice to everybody, people want to be with you. They wanna help you, they wanna make you happy. So all of those things work in every situation. Like you said, it doesn't have to be about sex or seduction or anything.
Nor does it have to be about matchmaking. And we see this proliferation of matchmaking shows. And I've seen that, what's her name, the millionaire madam?
Patty.
Madam, the millionaire madam.
That's a whole different line of matchmaking.
I've seen her out and about, and she's not
nice.
She's not a lady. Let's put it that way. She doesn't strike me as a lady.
Yeah.
And I don't know that even on the show she strikes me as a lady. But it's very curious. So you're not trying to match people.
No.
You want to help them just connect?
I want to help them connect with themselves, because I think that's such a huge thing, especially with women. We lose a lot of that self-confidence that we start as kids with. So that's a passion, but just connect with everybody else. I want to help them find their own matches, be able to find a match, whether you're looking online, offline, in the airplane, wherever it ends up. So.
When do you know you've gone too far, and how do you pull back?
When you're flirting?
Can you make up for it? It's like sending that text going, oh, wish I could unsend it.
Yeah, always read before you send. But there's a balance that you have to play. And the best flirts and the best learned flirts know that, okay, this person's giving me the cues that I need to back off a little bit. So body language is so hugely important. If they start like leaning away from you a little bit, putting some distance, they stop touching, that's all a sign that says, wait a second, what I'm doing is not working. But if they're leaning in and they're like touching more, that's a saying to them, wait a second, we're connecting here. So it's all about kind of putting all of those key things together and then reading it as a whole as to figure out if they're really interested.
God, it's so much more complicated now than when I was a young man starting out trying to flirt.
You're like,
because now you've got to flirt with your thumbs by texting.
Yes.
You've got to compose an email, and God forbid you send something too spontaneous because you'll regret it. But then if you overthink it, it's obnoxious. I'm sure it's different, in everybody's case is different, but just as an expert, what areas of flirting shouldn't be done? Should you do online flirting?
Yes.
You should?
Yes, but you have to be very careful because online, just like we've talked about before about body language, what you're saying comes off very black and white.
Yeah.
Comes off very black and white
There's
when
a
it's
little
in
gray.
an email. There's gray here. There's something to work with. I could be like, I really don't like you, but I say it with a smile and I say it with great body language, and it doesn't register to you like that. But if you say something in emails or texts and it comes out so black and white, you could really mess up a budding situation. So you just really need to read it, and if you're curious if you're too sarcastic, or I had one client who was just kind of mean in his emails. He didn't mean to be. It just came off, the way he writes when he doesn't know somebody is very curt, and it came off as really aggressive and mean. And just recognizing that was one thing to make a huge difference in his online flirtations.
What kind of man do you like? I mean, what's your type?
I don't know if I have a type. I've gone out with pretty much everything.
Are you single and looking?
I am.
I knew that. I knew the answer to that. Like a lawyer, I know the answer to the question before I ask it.
I've been dating. I was in a relationship. I was married, so it's not like I'm rushing into things. I'm very happy. But I think everybody, regardless of your work schedule or lifestyle, wants to have a partner at some point.
It would be natural for someone to say, "Oh, well, you're divorced. What didn't you do? Why didn't you flirt your way through the troubles that dissolved your marriage?" That's a complex answer, I suppose.
Absolutely. Well, and that's something any relationship expert comes across if they don't have that picture perfect. But there is no such thing as a picture perfect relationship. I got married very young. We're in a great place right now, and I have no regrets. But I don't believe that the experience of it makes me worse at my job. I think it makes me better because I can now identify with divorced women. A lot of my clients are divorced women coming back onto the market that don't know how to date anymore. It's a little different than 20 years ago. So if you've been in a relationship for a really long time, it makes it really difficult to get back out there safely and feel comfortable.
How do you advise women? It would apply to some men, but I think it would apply much more to women. When to draw the line and before it becomes overtly sexual and you get yourself into a jam.
Yeah, that's a danger area for women, and women really have to pay attention to touch. Touch is, like I said before, even just a little bit of touch, if it's the type of situation that can escalate pretty quickly, a little bit of touch is going to go a long way. So you need to be sure that, one, you're interested in him, and two, if you're interested in him but you're not interested in sleeping with him that day, you just need to tailor your conversations. If he starts getting too sexual, I have my clients, they have to have 3 topics that can be their go-to switch-tos. So whenever you're in a conversation, I'm gonna think, okay, we don't wanna talk about this. Let's talk about what else I had to talk about, whether it's food or travel or
Well, let me open my purse and show you my pepper spray.
That probably wouldn't be considered flirting, but it would get the point across, and it depends on how serious it got. I'm not opposed to pulling the mace out. Kidding.
Is it different? Here we are in New York City.
Yes.
Is it different city flirting from, we're on the subways. There's no limit to where we can flirt. When I lived in LA, you're in a car all the time, you didn't run into people. So I find it's different based on where you're located.
Absolutely. And if you're in a smaller town, it gets really uncomfortable if you flirt with someone you're rejected, because you see them over and over again. Although you and I both know New York is pretty small once you've been here a while. But
like 8 people on my block.
It's hilarious how there's millions and millions of people, but you still run into the same. But there's some cities like DC. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with. They're like, I can't date in DC anymore. I've literally dated everybody. There's these little circles that kind of interconnect.
Well,
So,
I find that with online dating, which
Yeah.
is why it hadn't worked for me, was because you exhaust the finite field in
Yeah.
your search engine, and okay, you might want to try another site, and sure enough, the
There they
same
are.
people are there on that other
Yeah.
site as well.
that is an issue. The only thing with online though is there's constantly new people signing up. So I say if you've gotten to that point, and I've been there too, I'm kind of at there right now, where I've been online on the site. I've met a couple of really nice people. There's nothing there, but you need to kind of take a break. So if you go offline for like 3 or 6 months and then go back on, there's normally like a new school.
I feel like I should put my head down here because now I feel like I'm in therapy session. But Rachel, my problem is I work
Tell me how you feel.
My whole life is okay. This is how I feel. Notice the thunder has stopped.
There's no judgment here.
My whole life is work. It is.
Yeah.
And even when I'm not working, somehow it's an activity related to work. And I don't believe there's an expression, you don't poop where you eat.
No.
And because of so much of my life is work related, I don't think it's appropriate for me to pursue romance in the workplace.
However, how much do you want it? That's the question.
I guess I'd rather work.
Yeah.
I guess that's the honest answer.
And that's the answer then, because people who don't have it, that really, really, really want it, will make the concessions they need to make to get it. And if you're not making those concessions to get it, you might not want it. Maybe not now. Maybe, a year from now, you might want it at that point. But I agree, it's way too small of an industry to start dating people inside of it. But I would still keep my mind open, but understand at the same time that there's a lot of people that wouldn't put up with your schedule or my schedule. I probably turn off more people because I travel every 2 weeks. I'm super busy. I live to work. I love it.
The Italians have a gesture for that.
and I flirt for a living, so it makes it even harder. But for you, I think it's just a matter of how bad do you want it.
We should point out that when Rachel arrived today, we've got 3 cameras here. I'm looking into 1, I'm looking into 2, I'm looking into 3, and Rachel arrived with cameraman number 2. So when I buzzed her in, there she was. I'm like, wait a minute, you're both coming up. So you do quick work.
I do. You got to think on your feet.
Well, on that note, let's have you think on your feet.
Uh-oh.
A rousing round of dying to know. I'm going to have you pull, I don't know, how about half a dozen?
I think I need a drink.
Pull a half dozen out, hand them to me, and I will ask you for your sort of most spontaneous answer to an assortment of questions. Maybe there'll be flirtatious
3,
answers.
4, 5.
This would be a good thing to do on a date.
Depends what the questions are.
Yeah, well, you're about to find out. Okay.
I'll tell you if this is a good or bad idea.
Let's pretend we're on a date.
date.
Okay.
Hi, Nelson.
Hi, Rachel. What's a place you've yet to visit that you'd love to see?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Yeah, you know what's behind that door.
I think the first place that I need to get to is probably, it's kind of lame, it's Turks and Caicos. It's so close, but I just keep seeing pictures. Everybody I'm friends with keeps going there.
Everybody I know goes there are couples.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we could go, we're on a date. How good is this date going?
We'd have so much fun. Okay, separate rooms though. All right. Rachel, what did you have for breakfast today?
Oh my God, I eat the same thing every day for like 10 years. It's egg whites with a thin slice of cheddar and a wrap. It's been like 10 years. It's kind of boring.
I'm consistent that way.
Yeah.
Every person I've ever played this game with gets this question. I'm throwing it
Is there
out
like
after
8
this.
in there?
No, it's just everybody keeps drawing it. Beyonce, awesome or overrated?
Oh, that's hard. I think she's awesomely overrated.
Yeah, that's good enough. Do you have any technological addiction?
Yes, I sleep with my phone. That's probably the problem. I can't have a relationship because I already have one with my iPhone.
You do?
I do. I can't. I tried to put it downstairs because my bedroom's on the 2nd floor, and I literally got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to come bring it back to bed.
I know this. Right. Who is a deceased star you wish you could have met?
Jim Morrison.
Oh, yeah, that was right on.
Yeah.
You had no problem with that. Have you visited his grave in France?
No, I didn't.
No,
but I
your
was
next
kind of like,
destination.
I went to France. I didn't visit his grave.
And your worst subject in school?
Oh God, I was such a nerd. Probably actually physics. That was my worst grade ever.
That would be hard.
It still hurts. knife to the heart.
Nerd in school,
Yeah.
becoming the flirt expert. I mean, you are the sought-after go-to guru for flirting. So when did you blossom if you were a nerd in high school?
Well, I was a nerd in grammar school, and then I kind of changed a little bit for high school because I had glasses and braces in grammar school, and you're, reconstructing everything. And then high school, I got rid of those, and it kind of like progressed. And then by college, I was the total flirt expert.
All right, I want you to give everybody who's watching this interview one thing flirtatious-wise to go out and try the next time they're on a date. Or not even on a date, next time they go out into the world.
I give them a challenge of, for 1 week, I want them to make eye contact and smile for 2 or 3 seconds with at least 4 people a day for 1 week.
That's very good.
Yes.
All right, so that'll be the commitment.
It'll change their lives.
Say it again.
Eye contact and smile, 4 people a day for a week. You gotta hold it for 2 or 3 seconds though.
Flirt fearlessly like Rachel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we can stop the cameras and talk dirty.